Have you guys heard about food crisis or food security? Okay, actually food crisis can be categorized as a global crisis because it affects over 122 million people all around the world. So this issue has to be taken seriously and immediately. Generally, food insecurity can be defined as a lack of ecosystem to access enough food for continuity of healthy life. In other words, there are millions of people all over around the world have a shortage to get enough food, and we cannot tell if they can feed themselves the next day or at the end of the day. So this is basically a basic definition of what actually a food crisis. To support this, according to 1996 of World Food Summit, food security exists when all people at all times have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. Alright, from this concept, we can subcategorize into 4 dimensions, which is firstly, physical availability of food, next, economic and physical access to food, food utilization, and lastly, stability of the other 3 dimensions over time. Alright, so moving on, there are numbers of causes which lead to the food crisis that happen in a country, and it is very important to understand from what the causes happen and to determine the solution or mechanism that has to be taken in order to overcome this problem. So firstly, the lack of access to farming land. As we know, food is grown or produced from the land. In doing so, generally people will get their income generated from their activities. However, many people do not have their own land and cannot access to farming land. This is because land ownership will strengthen the productivity of the agriculture of food, because from this activity it can produce food crops and also other sources of food, even at a small scale level. However, without accessing to this farming land, it will lead to a lack of key resources to producing food crops. Eventually, it will lead to food crises that happen. Secondly, war, conflict and violence. Actually, conflict, war and also violence have significant impact to food production and also supplies. To support this, in most countries where a civil war has prevalent over the years, the statistic shows that the food insecurity or food crisis is very high. To support this, a recent example we can refer to, which is the Syria agriculture production, which has been adversely affected by the conflict. In 2018, according to a report by FAO, or Food and Agriculture Organization by United Nations, there are total numbers of 5.5 million of Syrians have faced the food insecurity, and the causes is due to the conflict. The third one is the financialization of food. Recently, food has become a precious commodity and is being traded as a commodity on international markets. Price hikes in international food markets could trigger a severe and prolonged food crisis. This means that to a considerable degree, hunger, malnutrition and also food insecurity could be as a result of market priorities and the greed to achieve higher profit. And then we move to solution or mechanism to overcome this problem. Okay, firstly, there is need to reduce production of carbon emissions and pollution to reduce the resultant climatic change through concerted and individual efforts. Besides, there is need to invest in a clean energy such as solar, nuclear and geothermal power, because all of these activities will not adversely affect the environment. Moreover, a rich country or developed country should help poor nation to develop and use clean and renewable energy in order to stabilize greenhouse emissions into the atmosphere. Lastly, the important actor that need to play their role is the government itself. The government can make a collaboration or work in consultation with international organizations such as UN, United Nations or the World Bank, and also the climatic bodies to engage in a project that aim at promoting green environment. Alright, to conclude this, it is very clear from this discussion I mentioned earlier, the food shortage or the food crisis is a serious global problem that gives devastating impact on the population and also the government, and this calls for an urgent remedial measure by players in the food sector. all of the causes that I mentioned earlier can be solved if appropriately measures are be taken and effectively implemented. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, share and comment down below from your opinion about this topic, and don't forget to subscribe to YouTube Atma Studio and follow our Instagram, Facebook page, which is This is Atma Studio, and see you in the next video.